Ibiki to fall to the ground in fear. Suddenly, he hears a chewing noise coming from behind the iron door. Curious, he walks over and sees his boss feasting on a young woman. Hearing Hibiki's voice, the chief lets go of the woman and slowly stands up, turning his head to reveal a grotesque expression. The chief lunges at Ribiki, attempting to bite him. However, he manages to free himself and quickly closes the iron door, trapping the chief inside. At that moment, the infected co-workers also come towards him. Ibiki has no choice but to run for his life. He gets into a small truck, and as the zombies surround him, he finally starts the engine and gets rid of them all. When he arrives home, he can't find his girlfriend anywhere. Worried for her safety, he searches a drawer and finds the engagement ring still there. Remembering that he planned to propose to her on the day of the accident, he goes outside hoping to find someone who can help, but the noise attracts several zombies towards him. Luckily, he moves slowly, giving Ibiki enough time to escape. The delivery man on the second floor shouts directions to him, guiding him inside the building. As soon as he enters, someone grabs him and checks to see if he has been bitten by the zombies. To Ibik's surprise, the person turns out to be his high school colleague Ho, who is now a police officer. Two more men appear afterward. One of them is Daiki, Hiro's superior, and the other is Shinji, the delivery man who helped Ibiki. After confirming that he has not been bitten, he takes him to another location where several people have already gathered. He discovers that during the 4 days he has been trapped, a zombie virus outbreak has occurred, and anyone bitten by a zombie turns into one too. The cause of the outbreak remains unknown, and initially a rescue team was supposed to come to their area, but all contact has been lost. Since Shinji knows the local shortcuts, he decides to head to the nearest shelter to seek help and bring back the rescue team, promising to return soon. However, when night falls and Shinji has not yet returned, everyone becomes increasingly anxious. Ibiki suggests going to check on him, but Daiki stops him, insisting that they cannot afford to be separated any further. If the rescue team does not arrive by the next day, they will all go to the shelter together. Yuzuki, however, believes that they should stay and wait for the rescue, while the policeman argues that it is the police's duty to handle the situation and insists that they should be the only ones taking the risk. The discussion almost turns into a fight, but in the end they decide to go to the shelter together during the day because that way their chances of survival will be greater. Later, the zombies became frantic as they pushed open the main door from the outside, and the group ran to prop it up with all their might. It turned out that someone had bled out before, and the smell of blood drew the zombies there. They fought through the night, barely holding on until the zombies finally retreated at dawn. In the morning, the group prepared to leave and walked until nightfall, finally arriving at the shelter only to find it in complete chaos. It was a temporary facility in a hospital, but it was full of bodies. Ibiki became frightened, but after a while, he didn't notice any movement. As he searched the area, he found the clothes and ID badge of his girlfriend Kurumi, who was a medical intern. Despite everything, Ibiki was convinced that she was still alive. When Kane went to use the restroom, she was distracted by a strange noise and walked slowly towards it. She eventually discovered a large group of zombies, as they turned out to be slow-moving during the day but became absurdly fast at night. So, they advanced in the direction of Kanae, who ran to save herself, heading towards the room where her companions were screaming for help. They all scattered, running in different directions. And just as Kanae was about to be caught by the zombies, Ibiki shot an arrow that saved her. Minjun, skilled in martial arts, kicked several zombies to buy time for her companions, and the group successfully retreated to a room barricading the door. Meanwhile, a mother and son fled to the bathroom in panic. As more zombies gathered from outside, the bathroom door began to give way. Chako told her daughter to jump out the window and escape, but Daiki eventually killed the last zombie and saved her. Meanwhile, Yuzuki was in danger, as during her escape, her clothes got caught in an iron hook and the zombies were rapidly approaching. Just in time, Ibiki arrived and immediately drew his bow, shooting arrows to kill the zombies. At that moment, another creature advanced on them and Ibiki froze when he recognized Shinji, the delivery man who had gone to get help, finally understanding why he hadn't returned. With a murmur of apology, Ibiki let loose an arrow, defeating her. Yuzuki was finally safe and the group endured another agonizing night. The next day, they managed to tune the radio and suddenly heard a distress call. It was from Diakiki's girlfriend Kurumi. Unfortunately, as soon as she transmitted her location, the signal dropped. Kurumi was trapped on a bus surrounded by zombies running around in harm's way. After a search, Ibiki finally found the bus only to discover that it was empty. Daiki noticed spent bullet casings on the ground and concluded that the people on the bus had been rescued by the military and were probably being transported to a base. In fact, that's exactly what happened, so Ibiki and his group decided to go to the military base as well. However, Masaumi's expression became increasingly tense as it turned out that he had been infected. Ibiki discovered this when he approached him, remembering that he had perhaps pushed Masaomi the night before and feeling guilty for not telling Daiki that he had been infected. As Hibiki repaired the car, Masaomi stared at him, salivating before finally passing out. Pu checked and realized that Masaomi had been bitten. At the same time, a large horde of zombies appeared in the distance, forcing them to abandon the vehicle. The group retreated towards a building, taking the old man with them and, to avoid any incidents, tying Hole up. Minjan revealed that his sister was working with the military to develop a vaccine. If he could make it to the military base, perhaps he could cure Masa. But it was clear that he didn't have much time left. Suddenly, he began mutating and screaming in agony, his screams attracting even more zombies. But strangely, Masaomi regained his composure. Soon after, Hiro decided to kill him and pulled out a small knife, but Shibiki stepped in front of him, blocking his path to stop him. When the zombies invaded, he even carried Masaomi on his back, risking his own life. Masaomi was moved by his determination and told the others to drag him away. Knowing that his time was almost up, Masaomi stayed behind to hold off the zombies, holding the iron door and giving the group precious time to escape. After getting out, Ibiki was left shaken for a long time. Daiki and Hiro returned with fuel and managed to reunite with the group. Together, they prepared to go to the military base and after an exhausting journey finally arrived. While celebrating, Daiki waved but a gunshot rang out and he was killed, leaving everyone in shock. As the soldiers ran towards them, the group had no choice but to leave Daiki's body behind and flee. Ibiki and the others hid in a stack of shipping containers for 3 days. Hiro was grieving but eventually regained his composure. He had no idea why the soldiers had opened fire on them. But in a world like this, some people had already lost their humanity, so they decided to head to another shelter. Kane was the last to get up and at that moment, a zombie-lan approached her. Frightened, she stabbed it in the neck, but the zombie did not fall. Luckily, Ibiki noticed and ran, knocking him down and stabbing him in the forehead. The others returned at that moment and seeing that the zombie was dead, everyone breathed a sigh of relief. Soon after, the group resumed their journey and as night fell, they found a large building deciding to spend the night there. They entered the place and found it in disarray and unkempt. To prepare for any sudden threat, Ibiki took the lead, ready to act at a moment's notice. Suddenly, a loud scream echoed and a woman with a knife advanced towards them. Mistaking Ibiki for a zombie, he quickly spoke and explained that he was not a monster. Then, the woman finally relaxed and fainted. The group realized that the woman was a famous actress, Mian. After saving him, they welcomed him into their group and lowered their guard. They rested overnight, but the next day, a group of people approached. This group was led by a man named Suboi who claimed the building was his territory. It turns out that he had been watching them since they entered the building. They captured Kane and forced Hiro to hand over his weapon, threatening to behead her if he refused. It was clear that he refused, but negotiated to exchange the weapon for Kana the following day. Suboi, who was holding a hostage, wasn't at all worried about any tricks they might have up their sleeves, so he accepted the deal. Despite racking their brains all night, Ibiki and the group failed to come up with a viable plan. The next day, at the appointed time for the meeting, only Hiro, Minjum, and Yuzuki appeared. Ibiki was nowhere to be seen. On Suboi's side, the majority of the men were present. Suboi's men surrounded Hiro and his group, demanding that they surrender their weapons immediately. Hiro demanded simultaneous transactions, but Saro immediately placed a knife to Kanae's neck. So, he had no choice but to throw the gun and bullets at them. As Hiro approached Kanae, Suboi suddenly stopped him, asking where his missing group member was. As soon as he finished speaking, Ibiki appeared with a bow and arrow. TS Boy immediately pointed his gun at him, but Minjun also pulled out a gun and pointed it at Suboi, revealing that they had 2 weapons. Despite having a gun pointed at his head, Suboi remained unmoved. At that moment, Mian appeared holding Yuzuki hostage. It turns out that she had been infiltrated by Suboi and Choco had also been captured and tied up all along. So Ibiki and the others had no choice but to hand over their weapons as they couldn't risk Yuzuki's life. They were locked in a basement that was full of zombies that Suboi somehow managed to contain in that area, explaining why the rest of the building was free of monsters. Suboy locked the group of Beakies in a cage next to the zombies and tied them to pillars. However, Har approached him and whispered that a sudden drop in power caused the elevator to malfunction, trapping some of his men inside, and none of them knew how to fix the generator. Realizing the opportunity, Ibiki jumped forward and offered to fix it. Suboy sent 2 men to escort him and warned them to kill him if he tried to escape. After inspecting the generator, he discovered that the problem was not complicated and quickly fixed it. When one of Suboy's men climbed up to inspect him, Ibiki knocked him out and tried to flee. However, as he climbed the fence, his necklace got stuck, forcing him to jump back down, and unfortunately, the necklace and ring fell on the other side. A little girl took the engagement ring and asked if he was playing hide and seek, but he didn't have time to answer because he heard footsteps approaching. With no choice, he had to abandon the ring and run back. Ibiki could have escaped alone but was determined to bring his companions back with him. The problem was that he encountered Suboy but wasn't scared at all. During his escape, he met some of Suboy's followers. They were ordinary people who trusted him completely. Then, Ibiki realized that he might not be as bad as he seemed. The reason he stole his group was to protect those people. So, he implored Suboy to gather everyone and go to the Yokohama safe zone together. Suboy was moved by his sincerity and he slowly lowered his weapon, but said that Hibiki was very naive. Suddenly Rue arrived with urgent news. The military appeared. It turns out that an hour before, Suboy had captured Kurumi, who was collecting samples, and neither side knew of the other's existence. When the military received the news, the commander ordered a rescue mission to save the hostages and eliminate the terrorists. Suboy didn't have time to deal with Ibiki. He ran to the room where everyone was gathered and began organizing an orderly retreat. Although Kurumi encouraged everyone to surrender and promised to explain the situation, Suboy didn't trust the military. Meanwhile, Haru went to the basement and released the zombies into the cage, hoping to use them to slow down the military advance. The zombies soon clashed with the soldiers, who immediately opened fire on the advancing horde. As Suboy and his group fled, Kurumi noticed the ring on the little girl's neck. The ring had her name engraved on it, as it was the ring Ibiki planned to propose to her with. The little girl returned the ring to Kurumi, saying that it was from an uncle who had dropped it. Ignoring Suboy's orders, she ran back to look for Ibiki. At that moment, he was on his way to save his companions when he found a zombie tied up in the bathroom. As he prepared to kill it, Mine ran in and stopped him, as the zombie was her boyfriend, and even though he had transformed, she still loved him. She also revealed that zombies were afraid of fire, so Ibiki went to the basement. Just when everyone thought he had abandoned them, a flaming torch appeared, driving the zombies away, and with Ibiki's help, the group managed to escape. On the way out, he thought he heard Kurumi calling his name, but the way back was already blocked by zombies and he had no choice but to give up. Kurumi, however, was found by the military and successfully rescued. After escaping, Ibiki had a disagreement with Hiro. Their relationship became strained, and Hiro eventually decided to leave the group. Since Ibiki had saved everyone, the group chose to trust him. As Hiro passed by a billboard, he saw a note left by Kurumi that read, "Ibiki, I'm at the military base." After hesitating for a moment, Hiro tore up the note. Meanwhile, Ibiki the group to a shipyard that appeared clean and free of zombies. So, they decided to spend the night there. At that moment, Yuzuki's asthma attacked and there was no more asthma medication. So, Ibiki and Minjun decided to go out and look for more medicine. They went out immediately, hoping to return before nightfall and avoiding zombies on the way. Suddenly they spotted 3 survivors. Ibiki couldn't hesitate to help them escape from danger. 2 of them introduced themselves as reporters from Yokohama outside the quarantine zone. Ibiki animatedly asked if Yokohama was safe, and the man confirmed that it was, but was still shocked by the state of the quarantine zone. The other said that he was looking for his wife and daughter, and when he saw the photo, Ibiki realized that it was a Chaco and his daughter. So, he drew a map so that he could find them. He and Minjun had to continue their search for Yuzuki's asthma medication. The 2 remaining reporters, eager to get an exclusive story, decided to follow them. They found a hospital, but there were a few zombies outside. So Ibiki told the reporter to stay in a safe place. As he and Minjun broke a window and entered the building, they retrieved the medicine and ran back, discovering that the 2 reporters had been bitten and killed by zombies. During the escape, they accidentally encountered a group of zombies. So, they ran quickly and hid behind a roller door. After much effort, Ibiki and Minjun finally returned to the ship. Yuzuki took the medicine and felt better. Ibiki was lost in thought when he was called to the ship's cabin to be informed that Satoshi, the man he had drawn the map for, had been bitten. It turns out that Choco had deliberately taken Satoshi to a ship full of zombies because he was an abusive man. When they arrived, he acted kindly, but as soon as Yuzuki and Kanae came out, Satoshi revealed himself, throwing things, insulting Choco and her daughter. So, she decided to take action, which led to this fatal situation. The next day, the group prepared to go to the Yokohama shelter. Ibiki also wanted to take Satoshi with him, but the man pulled out a knife and attacked him. At that moment, Ibiki gave up her indecision and strangled Satoshi to death, telling the group that he had turned into a zombie. The others didn't check and just agreed. After a long journey, they finally arrived in Yokohama, excited to wave at the quarantine line, but suddenly stopped smiling. The virus had spread beyond the quarantine zone, and their last hope, the safe zone, had already been overrun by zombies. Overwhelmed by Hibiki, they decided to go against the odds and head towards the military base. To avoid the zombies, they opted to travel by boat. However, halfway through the journey, they realized they were out of fuel, and Hiro blamed Ibiki for not checking the tank. But there was nothing they could do. Luckily, they spotted a small island up ahead, and with the current, their boat was carried towards the coast. This was Sarushima, a tourist destination before the apocalypse, but now they had no idea what awaited them there. As they approached a building, Ibiki noticed movement, and upon inspection, they realized that a group of people were already there busy with something. The group noticed them and immediately raised their weapons in defense. To their surprise, it was Tsuboi and his team. Since he had arrived first, Ibiki asked if he could incise a small area for his group, promising not to cause any trouble. Tsuboi was reluctant because they had encountered zombies on the way, and now there were few companions left. At that moment, Haru shouted that one of his members was on the verge of death and the medicine was running out. So, Hibiki offered to go with Tsuboi to the military base to do some research. Despite the danger, Tsuboi agreed. Knowing that Hibiki was capable, they settled his group in a small room and prepared to leave the next day. In the morning, they selected a group of people to go, but since the military considered them terrorists, they had to sneak in by sea. When they reached the coast, Hiro fearfully refused to go and decided to stay in the boat to protect it. So, Ibiki did not insist. The rest of the group continued, and Tsuboi led them to an iron gate, cut the barbed wire, and opened a hidden bunker. According to reliable information, this bunker would lead directly to the military base. Before entering, they divided up the tasks, finding the medicine and possibly weapons. If they didn't return before sunset, he would leave immediately. Tsuboi took the lead and Ibiki followed closely behind, and after successfully infiltrating, they decided to search for medicine together. Since soldiers were passing through the corridors, their movement was difficult, so they decided to split up. Tsuboi and his group had already found the medicine, but when they were about to search for weapons, they had a bad feeling and decided to back out early. Meanwhile, Ibiki and Kanae found the medicine, but as he was leaving, Ibiki caught sight of Kurumi, his girlfriend. She seemed to be unconscious, and when he was about to check, someone grabbed her and carried her away. Ibiki didn't have time to think. He just wanted to save Kurumi. Then, he handed the medicine to Kanae and told her to go back while he chased after her. He ran towards a dark room, and as soon as he grabbed Kurumi's hand, he was knocked out with a piece of wood. At that moment, Kanae successfully escaped through the bunker. Upon learning that Hibiki was still at the military base, everyone waited for him, but the promised time arrived and they had not returned. Tsuboi and the others decided not to wait any longer. Kanae handed the medicine to Tsuboi and prepared to return with Minjun to find Hibiki. Touched by their loyalty, the leader handed everyone a knife and left without looking back. Meanwhile, Ibiki was slowly regaining consciousness in the military base, surprised to find himself tied up and surrounded by zombies. At that moment, someone spoke and he turned to find Professor Shudo. He recognized the man as the assistant doctor who had treated his mother when she was sick, and the doctor also remembered Hibiki. As Kurumi's superior, Shudo knew that he was her boyfriend, and to keep Hibiki away from the girl, he lied to her, saying that the boy was dead. That's why when Ibiki first arrived at the base, Shudo had organized the ambush to expel them, being the one responsible for Daiki's death. Suddenly, the power went out and Shudo assumed that Hibiki's companions had abandoned him, but to his surprise, they had returned to save him. The equipment used to study the virus needed power, and for Shudo, research was more important than anything else. So, he left Ibiki behind and ran to activate the emergency generator. But before leaving, Shudo released a zombie to take care of the boy. As another zombie approached, Ibiki fell back, using his legs to stop it from jumping. But soon, he ran out of strength. When the zombie was about to bite him, Minjun and Kanae arrived just in time. Minin stabbed the zombie in the head, saving Ibiki. However, he still decided to go after Kurumi. Kanae, who had developed feelings for him, tried desperately to stop him. But Ibiki left without looking back as he searched for Kurumi. He sneaked into a room and was frightened when he saw a zombie. However, the creature looked extremely familiar. Ibiki stared in disbelief at the zombie as it looked exactly like his mother who had passed away when he was just a child. Shocked, he tried to leave but something forced him to open the door and approach. Noticing that it was really his mother, Ibiki fell to his knees and, unable to bear to see his mother suffer, took an axe and freed her. But she had already transformed and was struggling to bite him. To avoid being bitten, Ibiki stumbled away, falling repeatedly as he fled. His heart ached and he wanted to go back to save her. But at that moment, a man arrived. It was Mac, one of Suboi's people who lived on the island, who saw Ibiki in a state of emotional turmoil and quickly injected him with a tranquilizer. Meanwhile, Minin and Kanae waited. They were still waiting for Ibiki when his zombified mother suddenly appeared. Kanae was unable to hold her and Minjun came to her aid. But although he managed to kill the zombie in one blow, he was bitten on the wrist in the process. Back in Lille, Ibiki finally woke up and Masak chose to reveal that he was once one of Shudo's research assistants. He was involved in the case of Ibiki's mother and she participated in a clinical trial that claimed to be a genetic therapy. However, it was actually an illegal medical experiment and the virus injected into her turned her into a zombie. This virus was developed by Shudo and he used it on patients without permission. But Mahisak did not know if it had spread naturally or was caused by humans. At that moment, Ibiki learned the truth. His mother had been used as a guinea pig by Shudo. Later that night, Minjun found Hibiki and asked for forgiveness. He said that he had just realized that the person who killed him was his mother, but before he could finish his sentence, he passed out. Ibiki then discovered that he had been bitten and, filled with guilt, realized that Minjun had injured himself trying to save him. Minjun knew that he wouldn't be able to hold on much longer and wanted to see the sunset one last time. The group then helped him get to the beach and as he watched the sunset, Minjun took one last photo hoping that Ibiki would give it to his sister. After saying this, he closed his eyes and transformed into a zombie, violently struggling to bite anyone. The group held him tightly with their eyes full of tears. Even sad, Ibiki made the decision to end it all with a single, merciful blow. They stayed there until nightfall and Ibiki couldn't shake the guilt. He felt that Minjun's death was his fault and that if he hadn't been so focused on chasing Kurumi, he might still be alive. He tried to convince himself that everything he saw was just a hallucination of Kuru and in the end chose to forget about him. In the morning, the group buried Minjun and scattered flower seeds on his grave so that he would not be left alone. After that, the group had a few days of peace. When food was scarce, they would take a boat to the coast to gather supplies. Although they still encountered zombies, Ibiki and Kanae became better at working together and each time managed to escape more easily. However, one day, while patrolling the island, Haru discovered a kayak and that someone had infiltrated the island. H was crouching down, observing the surroundings, when suddenly, a knife was pressed against his neck. This CAA belonged to him and he ended up on the island by pure chance. He was quickly captured by Subo's men and locked in a room. Ibiki said that he had seen him at the military base before, which confused everyone since Daiki had been killed by them, so it didn't make sense for him to join forces with the enemy. But C just replied to abandon the island since the military base would be looking for him soon. Before he could finish, Ibiki punched him saying that he was deeply disappointed. He said that it was Chudo who had killed his mother and added that if anyone dared to hurt his companions, he would kill everyone. So, he left him there. However, while Cho was picking wild vegetables on the island, a shot hit his arm. Kanae quickly took her bow and aimed an arrow at the shooter, and even though she wasn't very skilled, she managed to graze his leg. It turns out that the soldiers from the base really came to find Hiro and Kurumi were with them. Kanae helped Choko back to her house and Hibiki ran to find them wondering how this happened if Subo's group was supposed to be on patrol. As he ran outside, he saw Suboi preparing to leave. He had already evacuated all of his companions when Hiro was captured, so only he and Haru were still there. After saying this, Suboi left without looking back, leaving Ibiki puzzled. He wasn't sure how many enemies were outside, but was determined to protect his companions. So, he began to set up obstacles. As night fell, the female soldiers from the base did indeed appear outside and began yelling at the people inside to drop their weapons and surrender. When there was no response, they prepared to invade. At that moment, Yuzuki and Kanae appeared holding Hiro hostage. The soldiers lowered their weapons and Kurumi watched the scene from a high point. Meanwhile, Ibiki managed to sneak up behind her. Looking at her back, he didn't recognize her, so he shouted that he would release the arrow if she moved. Kurumi recognized the voice. Happy, she turned around. However, at that moment, Ibiki's hand trembled. He released the arrow and only after it was fired did he realize that the person in front of him was his girlfriend. However, it was too late. Ibiki approached in disbelief as he looked at the face he had been searching for so long and suddenly felt lost. Mazik ran to check on Kurumi and insisted that Hibiki take her to another place to treat her as there might still be hope. At the same time, the soldiers and Kanae were still at a stalemate. Suddenly, Ibiki appeared holding Kuru in his arms and seeing that she was injured, the group paused the conflict. The soldiers quickly took him to the base for treatment. Fortunately, Ibiki had been shot in the right side of his chest and the doctor managed to save his life. Meanwhile, the people on the island gathered around Chaco. At that moment, they realized that the woman they had seen before was the girlfriend Ibiki had been searching for all his life and was left alone, consumed by his grief. A few days later, one of the soldiers who came with Kurumi, a sergeant, arrived on the island. When he saw Ibiki and the others in a defensive posture, Rikudo lowered his weapon and raised his hands in surrender. It turns out that after bringing Kurumi back, he realized that Ibiki and the others didn't look like terrorists, but just ordinary civilians. So, he decided to investigate the truth but ended up in trouble. Rikudo had just discovered that Shudo was behind everything when he arrived with his men. They accused Rikudo of disciplinary violation and intended to arrest him. Realizing the danger, Rikudo jumped off a balcony and escaped. He felt guilty as someone responsible for protecting the citizens and thought to thwart that they were one of the terrorists. So, he asked for forgiveness. Rikudo mentioned that Kurumi had passed the critical period and only then did Ibi feel his anxiety lessen. He said that after saving her from the bus, they discovered that she was a trainee doctor. Kurumi had been working for Shudo since then, but one day, he noticed that Kurumi seemed to have antibodies for the virus. So, he began taking Sandel frequently for experiments pretending it was for vaccine research to keep her close to him. Rikudo admitted that the base was now completely under Shudo's control. Everyone placed their hopes in the vaccine, so no one noticed his true intentions. Maze, however, had a different opinion and believed that Shudo was not working on a vaccine. His goal was to further his own agenda using the vaccine as a step to manipulate everyone. And Kurumi was just one of the many people Shudo was controlling. Ibiki was devastated to hear this. He went to the room where Hiro was and untied him but pulled him and said that if he wanted to save Kurumi, he would have to cooperate. However, before Ibiki could respond, they learned that Chaco's injuries had worsened. It turns out that the shot had caused an infection leading to sepsis and she needed antibiotics, but only the base had them. So, the group came up with a plan. Rikudo still had some connections to the base and used a radio to contact the soldiers there, arranging for a supply of antibiotics to be taken to the dock behind the base the next day. Additionally, he requested a medical specialist who was Kurui. That way, he could take the medicine and save Kurumi in one fell swoop. A perfect plan. The next day, after Ibiki took the medicine, he reached out to Kuromi. She hesitated for a moment but suddenly picked up a gun. The bullet grazed Hibiki's cheek, leaving him in shock. The shot attracted nearby zombies and in the panic that followed, everyone had to back away. Ibiki, unwilling to give up, grabbed Kurumi's hand but she shook it coldly. It seemed that she had been completely brainwashed by Shudo. Back in Sarushima, Ibiki was consumed by anxiety and Choco with the medicine began to slowly recover. At that moment, good news came over the radio. A new shelter called the House of Hope had sprung up. Although the group had lost faith in shelters, they decided to take the risk for the sake of food and medical supplies. However, Ibiki could not bring himself to give up on Kurumi. In the middle of the night, while everyone else was asleep, he grabbed his gun and went out alone. To his surprise, Hiro was waiting outside as he had already guessed that Ibiki would come out and go after Kurumi. He loved Kurumi too but decided to save her in his own way. The sun had risen and the military base seemed eerily abandoned without a single guard in sight. The ground was covered in the bodies of soldiers, most of whom had turned into zombies. Some had been bitten recently and the entire base was in chaos. Worried for Kurumi's safety, Hibiki invaded the deepest part of the research building, but was careless and a surviving soldier spotted him. The soldier locked Ibiki in a cell and then notified Shudo, hoping to secure a vaccine for him. Shudo thanked him and assured that as long as there was a vaccine, he would not be infected. As soon as the soldier came out, Shudo smiled. The idea of the vaccine was perfect because he could control people as he wished. He planned to kill Ibiki immediately. Meanwhile, Shudo finally revealed the truth to Kurumi. It turns out that the precious cryogenic device he prized so much was not, as everyone assumed, to develop a vaccine, but rather a human corpse. The body was that of his wife. He had created the zombie virus in an attempt to bring his wife back to life, making it clear that his obsession had driven him to madness. Soon, the soldier brought Hibiki to Shudo. However, by this point, he had completely lost his mind. He shot the soldier to death and threw a dagger at Ribiki. At the same time, Kurumi appeared holding a knife in her hand as well. Shudo wanted to watch them kill each other, but Skibiki refused to believe that Kurumi could be so callous. He threw his weapon to the ground and knelt down, telling Kurumi to kill him if she wanted. Then, under Shudo's orders, she raised the knife. However, at that moment, the ring on her necklace slipped, causing her to stop moving. The knife slipped from her hand and Hibiki quickly stood up and pulled Kurumi into his arms. He knew she would never hurt him. Instead of witnessing him kill himself, Shudo watched their bond grow stronger. Furious, he pulled and broke the fire hose and blood sprayed out from inside. The blood splattered all over Ibiki and Kurumi. Suddenly, there was a commotion from outside the hallway. The smell of blood attracted a large number of zombies and soon they arrived at the door. Shudo, sensing that killing them would be too easy, decided to let the zombies tear them apart. Windows shattered and the zombies pushed desperately, quickly swarming the room. At this point, Ibiki and Kurumi had no time to escape. They huddled together tightly as the zombies approached, waiting for the end, as there seemed to be no way out. But in the next second, Shiro, Rikuto, Tsuboi, and the others arrived, quickly dispatching the zombies. It turns out that the night Hibiki left, Hiro said he would save Kurumi in his own way, and this was the way. He found Tsuboi and asked for help with a promise of weapons from the military base. In exchange, they didn't anticipate that there would be no soldiers at the base, which allowed them to successfully reach the building. Kane also arrived, and seeing them, Ibiki felt grateful. Meanwhile, Shudo had fled with his wife's body, but a zombie suddenly ran from the side. Shudo fired twice but was still bitten on the leg by the creature. He then shot the zombie in the head, killing it, but due to the bite, Shudo didn't make it far. Before he collapsed to the ground, Ibiki and the others caught up with him. When Shudo tried to shoot, he realized that there were no more bullets in the gun. So, Ibiki pinned him down, ready to strangle him and end it all. But in the end, he failed to do so. However, Shudo had already been infected with the virus and soon mutated. Seeing this, Ibiki chose to shoot Shudo, granting him a merciful end. In the end, everyone returned to Sarushima where Ibiki and Kurumi